Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of She Talks Business. I am excited to be back with you again this week. The topic of today's podcast is 4 factors for exponential growth. And I think I've got some really interesting stuff in store for you today. I want to start, though, just with a little bit of backstory. And if you follow me on social media at all, sorry, I made myself a tea and it's too hot to drink. If you follow me on social media at all, you'll know that I recently completed my annual Beach House Mastermind Retreat. And one of the things that I do every year at the Beach House Mastermind Retreat is I typically pull out my own coaching logs and I go back and I look at the things that I've learned over the past year and I pick something from my own learning. Sometimes I pick more than one thing to share with people who are in attendance. And this year, there were 2 things that I really wanted to draw out. So I am entering into my 3rd year in Strategic Coach. I've been in Strategic Coach for 2 years now. I've been in their 10X program for a year. I am now going into my 2nd program, which means that every quarter I spend 2 days at the Strategic Coach offices, usually in Chicago, but I think this year I may visit Toronto as well. And when I was looking back at my notes, there were 3 things that stood out to me. And then there's a 4th that I want to talk about that came from someplace else. So I want to set the stage for this, though. I am sharing the words that I wrote down. I am not sharing the approach that Strategic Coach took to teach me these things. I'm sharing what resonated with me and what landed with me, but I want to give credit where credit is due. And these 3 words for getting 10x growth were written in my notebook. So let me tell you what the 3 words were: vision, capability, and reach. You need to have vision, you need to have capabilities, and you need to have reach in order for anything to take off. But then I was listening to this podcast where Shane Parrish from the Knowledge Project was interviewing Cody Sanchez. And Cody Sanchez said something that really resonated with me, which is effort matters more than capabilities. And I was like, she's right. Effort does matter more than capabilities, because you can have the greatest capabilities in the world, but if you don't apply the right amount of effort, you're not going to get the exponential growth that you're looking for. So today I want to talk to you about these 4 factors for exponential growth, and I want to give you some things to go away and think about. But before we do that, I want to have a little sidebar conversation with you. I just spent the first few minutes of this podcast sharing with you what I've learned from Strategic Coach. Framing what I'm about to share was inspired by things that I learned there, but I am not repeating verbatim, and sharing what I heard Cody Sanchez say on a podcast. Why am I giving credit where credit is due? Because I think it matters. It matters a lot from a place of integrity. When you can cite the source of where something came from, you look like a more ethical human being. I could just pretend that these are my 4 ideas, but it wouldn't be truthful. It wouldn't be honest. It wouldn't feel right to me. Now, when I was at the Beach House this year, I did this exercise about marketing, and I kind of played a trick on my participants. And I used somebody who has become quite famous in the last little while for a new book that they just released called The Let Them Theory. That book, I'm sure you've heard of it, was published by Mel Robbins. And Mel Robbins has been talking about the Let Them Theory for the last little while. However, what you might not know is the Let Them Theory originated with a poem written by a woman by the name of Cassie B. Phillips, long before Mel Robbins ever started talking about Let Them. In fact, Cassie Phillips was the one who first tattooed Let Them on her arm. So it made me wonder, why is it that Mel Robbins hasn't attributed any of what she did to Cassie? Why has she just let this go? Maybe Mel didn't know. But then I thought, Mel's a researcher. If you research Let Them, it's pretty hard not to stumble upon Cassie and the viral movement that took place in 2022 when she first shared her poem on social media. So then I started digging a little bit further, and I found that Mel has been asked about this many, many times on social media by other people who want to understand why she didn't give Cassie credit anywhere in her book. Now, I don't know Mel and I don't know Cassie, but what I do know is doing the right thing means doing the right thing. And if you wrote a book around a theory that should have been attributed to someone else and you didn't know that they were the first person to actually write it, it's never too late to double back and include them. And if you were inspired, just like I'm inspired by what I learned at Strategic Coach, you can give credit to the origins of where your inspiration came without degrading or demeaning all the extra research that you've done. Mel Robbins could have had a little thing at the beginning of her book that said, I'd like to dedicate this book to Cassie Phillips, because Cassie Phillips wrote this poem, and I'm going to put it right here in front of you at the front of this book and acknowledge her, because this poem is what sent me down the rabbit hole of researching what the Let Them theory was all about. And I'm sure Cassie would have been perfectly fine and happy to have been given that acknowledgement and that credit for the work that she first put out into the world. So one of the things that you will always hear from me on this podcast is the source of my inspiration. If an idea has come from someone else, if something I'm talking about is being repeated because I read it in a book or I heard it on a podcast or I learned it in a course, I'm always going to tell you the source of where it came from, because I think it really, really matters to give credit where credit is due. I think we can build on other people's ideas and we can do it in an ethical manner, but I don't think we should ever diminish the work that someone else did before us, especially when we know about that work. And if we didn't know about that work and somebody brings it to our attention, then you have an opportunity to actually right the wrong or right the thing that you didn't know, or say, I didn't know that. But the fact that Mel Robbins has remained completely silent on this, she has not responded to anything that people have said to her, makes me actually question her integrity, because it's not like she doesn't know, but she's choosing not to say anything. And for someone who inspires millions and millions of people on a daily basis, I think that's a shame. I think that as women especially, it's so important that we give credit where credit is due and that we lift each other up and not tear each other down. And I keep hoping that Mel will come to the table with an explanation that makes sense to the rest of us who are wondering why Cassie wasn't given credit from the very beginning. But if you're listening to this podcast, please always give credit where credit is due. I've been on the other side of it, where I've seen people take my work and use it in other ways and never give me a shred of credit. It doesn't feel very good. So when you have an opportunity to give someone credit for the inspiration that they have provided you, always take the opportunity and include them in the glory of what it is you're doing. All right, now let's get started. So the first thing I want to talk to you about is vision and why vision matters, okay? You have to know where you want to go and you have to know why it matters, or you're going to lose sight of the vision. You don't get in your car and just drive aimlessly. Even if you get in your car and you're going to the grocery store or you're going to Starbucks, you know where you're going. If you don't have vision and you don't know where you're going, you're never, ever, ever going to attain exponential growth. And the reason you're not going to attain exponential growth is because you're not focused. You are lacking in clarity. So you need to know what your vision is. You need to know where you want to go and why it matters. And you need to keep that vision top of mind. You need to get so sick and tired of telling people about your vision that you're almost bored with it yourself. You also need to make that vision big enough that you never reach the horizon. That's one of the things that Lee, my coach at Strategic Coach, talks about all the time, is your vision should be so far out on the horizon that you never arrive. You're constantly trying to get closer and closer and closer to it. And I believe that to be true. There are no end zones, as Lee would say, when you have a strong enough vision. You also need to be able to articulate your vision to other people in a compelling way. You need to have some passion. You need to be able to inspire other people to want to join you in making the vision that you have set a reality. Your vision needs to be both ambitious and achievable. So while I say the vision should be so far out on the horizon you never reach it, there should be milestones along the way where you can see that your vision is actually coming into reality. So like one of my visions is, really, I want to help small businesses make more money. I believe that when you help business owners be more successful, then there's a huge ripple effect. Those business owners can afford to hire people, which makes those people more successful. Those business owners can afford to spend more, therefore they're generating more revenue. So they're spending more money, therefore they are generating an economic impact by virtue of their success. And so I'm super passionate about helping entrepreneurs make more money in their business, because I know that there's such a huge effect when that happens. Will I ever be done? Probably not. So my vision is to just keep inspiring as many people as I can to make that happen. I'm never going to reach that end zone, but I can definitely measure it along the way. I can measure it when my clients tell me that they've closed a new deal based on something I shared with them. I can measure it when my clients tell me how much money they've made at the end of the year compared to last year. I can measure it when I see my clients making generous donations to things or hiring new people. And so I can measure it along the way and know that I'm actually getting closer and closer and closer to realizing my vision of making that impact. You need those milestones along the way. If you don't have milestones along the way, it's really hard for you to feel good about the vision and feel good about the work you're doing. So you need clarity of vision. You need to know where you're going. You need to know why it matters. You need to be able to talk about it to other people. You need to be able to measure the progress along the way. And it's got to be compelling enough to attract other people to the journey with you, but it's also got to be compelling enough to keep you jazzed long enough to stay at it. And if you're not jazzed by it, then chances are your vision doesn't align with your purpose and values. Now, I also want to say that sometimes vision can be a really heady word, and maybe you don't know what your vision is right now, and that's okay, but know what the vision is for where you want to go next. And then start to ask yourself why questions. Why does that matter? Why does that matter? Why does that matter? And as you keep peeling back those layers around why, you'll start to get a better feeling about why what you're doing or how what you're doing is tied to a bigger vision. I'm going to use myself as an example. I used to think that what I really did was strategy and marketing. And my sister asked me probably about a year ago, what my vision was for the business. And I sat there and it was like, I didn't know how to answer the question, and it really bothered me. And so the next day I still kept thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. And I was like, I do have a vision. My vision is to help as many entrepreneurs as I can make more money. And this is why it matters to me. And it really was powerful for me to be able to kind of go deeper into strategy and marketing and why that matters and what is the outcome that generates and what is the difference that makes. So I encourage you to sit with the thing that might be on the surface of your vision that doesn't quite feel right and dig deeper to find what it is. All right, next, you need capabilities. It's great to have a vision, but if you don't have the skills and the knowledge and the resources and the expertise to get there, then it's going to be really, really difficult and really demotivating and hard to achieve. So you need to have the right capabilities. You need to know what the skills are that you need. You need to know what the knowledge is that you need. You need to know what resources you need in order to execute the vision. Now, if that vision is big and out on the horizon, you might not know all the skills and knowledge and resources you need right now, but you know what skills, resources, and knowledge you need to take the next step. And then you can assess and you can gain more as you continue to go. Gaining more is super important. You need to have a continuous focus on learning and growing and evolving and getting better. There's always something you don't know. You don't know what you don't know until you know. But once you know that you don't know, then you have a responsibility to go gain whatever knowledge is necessary for you to stay on that path. Tim Ferriss was talking on one of his podcasts a while ago. I forget which one it was. And one of the things that he talked about is that he feels his best when he is either making or mastering something. And I think mastery is a word that we often don't use enough in our own craft. We want to become masters at what we are doing. And the only way that you can develop mastery is by being committed to the skills and the knowledge and the learning that you need in order to gain that mastery. It's also important to get clear on the core competencies versus the skills that you can hire someone else to do. So some of my core competencies are around strategy, marketing, and money making. And when I do strategy and I help people with marketing, a lot of times they need more technical solutions. I know enough to know that I don't need to know how to build a website to tell somebody what they need to do to build a website that is going to work well for them. I can hire team members and I can outsource some of the more technical things that I don't have to have competency in. But I need to know enough to know whether the people that I'm bringing on board actually have the skills and abilities or the capabilities to do the work well. So make sure you know what are the things that you need to know how to do and what are the things that other people need to know how to do, and how do you inspect what you expect to ensure that the team that you're creating has the capabilities that are going to help you and your customers to be successful. You're also going to want to create thoughtful systems and processes that can help you to scale so you don't have to do it all yourself. You need to go from being basically a doer in your business to being the owner and leader of your business. And a lot of people don't know how to codify the way that they do things, and therefore they get stuck doing things that they should be getting other people to do. So it's super important that you're creating those thoughtful systems and processes so that you can get help along the way so that you can focus on the next most important thing for you to do. Which leads me to the next thing that is important, and that is getting the right team. It's super important that you assemble the right team with the complementary capabilities, but also shared values and commitment to the cause. I just finished reading a book called $1 Trillion Coach. It's a fantastic book about leadership, and it talks a lot about coaching teams and making teams successful. If you don't have the right team, if you have a really, really, really big vision, but you don't have the right team, it's gonna be really, really hard for you to get there. I mean, look at Elon Musk as an example. Think about some of these huge visions that he's had for SpaceX and even for Tesla. If he didn't have the right team, there's no way that he could actually bring his vision into reality. So it's super important as a capability that you as a leader learn how to build the right team. And that means learning how to lead well and treat people well so that they want to remain on your team. The third thing that is important is reach. You know, the best ideas in the world are useless if no one knows about them. You know, if you don't have any reach, then you're going to have a hard time getting your idea off the ground. So I'm going to talk about Mel Robbins again. Mel Robbins' reach is exponentially larger than Cassie Phillips, which is why the work that Mel Robbins did on the Let Them book is actually really powerful and important, because she's taken this idea that somebody else had and she's blown it up. And it's gotten in front of millions and millions of people, which is making an impact in the world. If you don't have reach, it can be really hard to get your idea out there and make the impact that you want. So you need to do things that help people to know about you, your business, and your ideas. You need to build a network, and you need to leverage your network. You need to build relationships. You need to leverage relationships. And that doesn't mean being a taker. You can be a giver in your network. You can be a giver when you're building relationships. And the law of reciprocity says that if you do enough nice things for other people, they are going to want to do nice things for you. So make sure you're making lots of positive deposits, emotional deposits into your network. And it doesn't matter if that network is in person or if it's virtual. You can do things online to make people feel good about how they interact with you. All you need to do is look at somebody like Gary Vaynerchuk and see how he interacts in the comments of his social media channels, and you'll see that he does a lot to make sure people feel seen, valued, and appreciated. You can do the exact same thing. You always want to focus on authentic connections and relationships, and you want to add value as much as you can. People want to help people who help other people. Be the type of person that helps other people. Be strategic about the use of different platforms and channels. Really figure out what audience is where. How do you get in front of them? How do you help them? How do you create content that is valuable for the network that you are participating in? You don't want to create the wrong content for the wrong channel. You want to create the right content for the right audience in the right channel. That's how you expand your reach. But you also expand your reach by engaging with people on those channels. So there is a concept of having a minimum viable audience. You don't need 1 million people to make $1 million impact. I talked about this, I think, on the last podcast where I talked about list building and how it makes me crazy when people think you have to have a big list to be worthy of anything in the online space. It's not always true, but you do want to be committed to constantly expanding that reach. You can expand your reach incrementally, but if you've got clear vision and you've got great capabilities, chances are you can do things to expand your reach exponentially in a meaningful and thoughtful way. One of the ways that you can do that is by creating content that resonates and gets shared by people on a regular basis. You know, Seth Godin says, in order to be remarkable, you need to do something that is remark worthy. When you create content that is remark worthy, other people share that content with other people. That's the kind of content you want to create. Things that are so helpful to other people that they want to pass it along. That's how you expand your reach. And then understanding your audience deeply enough that they feel as though you are an advocate for them. And because they feel that you are an advocate for them, they will actually become an advocate for you. Don't underestimate the value of adding value. Don't underestimate the value of engaging with the people that are supporting your work. I mean, Taylor Swift is brilliant at this. She pays attention to her Swifties and she sends her, her biggest supporters prezzies. She does the unexpected on a regular basis and it pays back dividends 1,000-fold. When she shows up at a wedding that she was invited to and people don't expect her, that's like millions of dollars in positive press for her because she's showing that she cares about her audience. That's how she reaches so many people. What are you doing to be the Taylor Swift to your audience? All right. The next thing, the last thing is effort. You know, one of my mantras this year after hearing Cody Sanchez say that on the Knowledge Project is this the best you can do? Are you really putting forward the effort? I ask myself regularly, what would this look like if I was really putting effort in? And I'm going to tell you, I spent an hour at my computer preparing for this podcast before I started to record. In the past, I've sat down and just recorded without really thinking. I have a few things written down and I just go, but I actually spent time preparing. The last 2 podcasts, I re-recorded them. I recorded them twice, both of them, because after I did the recording, I felt like I could actually do better. And so I went back and I put the additional effort in to do that. So ask yourself, is this the best you can do? You know, I am known for saying done is better than perfect, but done still requires effort. Done doesn't mean lazy. Done doesn't mean half-assing it. Done means still putting the effort in to do something well. You also want to recognize smart work versus hard work. Where can you focus on high leverage activities while at the same time appreciating when you still need to do $5 an hour jobs? There are some things that, Brian Tracy would say, eat that frog. They're the really big, hard things that you need to do. And then there are other things that are smart strategic thinking. Understand when you need to put in additional effort to get the hard things done and when you need to put in undistracted effort to figure out how to do the smart things. Consistency and persistence over time. It's huge. Don't let your emotions hijack the journey. One of the things that I talk to my team about a lot is don't catastrophize exceptions. Sometimes our feelings get hurt. My husband would say when that happens, file a hurt feelings report. And when our feelings get hurt, we can catastrophize. All of a sudden, everything is bad. The vision is bad. The effort isn't worth it. We don't have enough reach. We can make it sound just awful when really it's an emotional moment. So be mature enough to recognize when this is an exception and you're having one of those emotional moments. Don't catastrophize it and cause yourself to throw away all of the good because you experienced a little bit of bad. There's a lesson to be learned in that. Manage your energy, not just your time. We all manage our time every week. Your to-do list, your this, your that, but you got to manage your energy too. And managing your energy means making time to get enough sleep, making time to eat well, making time to exercise. When I go for my walk, when I do my 10,000 steps every day, like I'm on fire. I feel so good about myself. And doing those things every single day pay back huge, huge dividends. Don't underestimate the power of consistency and persistence over a long period of time. Most people can't stay in it for the long run. And if you can, you will differentiate yourself. Those compound effects, they really, really, really do add up. In fact, Jerry Seinfeld writes jokes every single day. He has this thing called a streak. He has a calendar and he puts a red X on it every single day after he's done writing jokes. And his mantra is, don't ever break the streak. Keep the streak going. I was listening to Tim Ferriss. I feel like Tim Ferriss is the only podcast I listen to. It's not, but it's one of the best ones I listen to. And he was interviewing Greg McKeown, who wrote Essentialism. And one of the things that Greg McKeown talked about in Essentialism was creating minimums and maximums around a new habit. And so he was talking to Tim Ferriss, and Tim was saying something about exercising for 60 minutes a day. And Greg said, no, when you start something new, give yourself a minimum of a minute a day and a maximum of 5 minutes a day for the first 10 days. And then the next 10 days, make it a minimum of 3 minutes a day and a maximum of 10 minutes a day. Set the minimum and the maximum low enough to actually allow yourself the discipline of creating the habit before you make it huge. That's how you create a compound effect of daily actions, is you actually make it easy enough for you to do every day and you keep on doing it. You also want to measure progress and adjust based on the feedback and the results that you get. And then lastly, when it comes to effort, you want to look for some ongoing accountability, whether it's a coach, like an accountability partner, joining a mastermind group. You need someone to help you step into your potential, especially when things are hard. We often get stuck, and that's why we don't move forward. We often have the itty bitty shitty committee telling us that maybe we shouldn't do this, or maybe we're not the right person, or maybe we can't do this. You need somebody who can help you quiet that voice and help you to believe that you can do that. That's why I created the Brain Trust. That's why I host my Beach House Masterminds. In fact, I posted something in our Beach House group yesterday and said, who accomplished something last week? Because last week was the first week after the actual mastermind retreat. And you should have saw all the comments and things that people were doing. The Brain Trust is going to be the same. If you haven't read about the Brain Trust, you can go to my website and read about it. But surround yourself with people who are actually going to hold space for you to continue to put the effort in. It's easy to get lazy by yourself, but there is peer pressure that helps you to move forward when you are doing big things with a group of like-minded people. All right, so there you have it. Those are the 4 things that can help you get exponential growth. If you have all 4, and all 4 are going at the same time, you have vision, you have capabilities, you have reach, and you're putting in the effort, you can get exponential growth over a short period of time. But if you're missing any 1 or any 2 or any 3 of those things, if you're missing 1, you might get incremental growth. If you're missing 2, you're probably going to flatline or start to decline. And if you're missing 3, you're not going anywhere. You're just stalling. You don't even really have a vision. You have no momentum. Momentum loves speed. And if you want speed, then you need to do the things that help you to get exponential growth. So we're still early enough this year for you to make 2025 a great year. Forget about 2025 though. Anytime you listen to this podcast, if you start now, you can make the next 12 months fantastic. But you have to start. And if you don't have the habits in place right now to ensure that your vision stays in the forefront, your capabilities are strong and always growing, your reach is constantly expanding, and you're always putting forth the effort, then you need to do something different. Because if you don't have those things working for you all the time, chances are you're missing some type of a resource in your corner, a coach, a peer, someone that can help you to do it. So I want to encourage you. If your vision is really big, you deserve the support. Go get the support and make the next 12 months of your life the most exponential growth you've ever had before. Thanks for listening to this episode of She Talks Business, and I'll see you again next time.